So today I'm going to be going over all the Wave 6 shortcuts and how to do them. Let's get started. Rome Avanti. Now this first cut is kind of simple. You go through these little stones. You can't unfortunately do this shroomless, you have to use a shroom. I think this is what it's supposed to look like, where you kind of go down the stairs like this, but you're not going to get that very much. Oftentimes you'll get it like this, but yeah, this first shortcut doesn't really set up well for the rest of the track, so I don't suggest going for this too often. I guess if you have a shroom at the beginning, I think you should take this upcoming cut instead, which saves a lot more time. You can't get a UMT there, but I didn't get one there, unfortunately. And then you can also shroom through this last cut before the lap. You can also do that exact same cut lap 3, which I'll show later. And similar to the cut you saw lap 1, you can do the exact same thing lap 3, but this time you want to hold your mini turbo over this glider and get an ultra mini turbo. And at the end you can take the exact same shroom cut. I just didn't have enough shrooms to show you guys at the end. Now DK Mountain. So you have this first shroom cut, fairly simple to execute. Just pull a mini turbo off or right after you get out of the cut. Now this mountain shortcut, I'm not too sure how to make it faster than just going the normal route. I know the world record does it, but on Teddy Buggy, for example, it's very hard to make that exact thing faster, and it's very risky, so I wouldn't really exactly, I don't know, I wouldn't exactly recommend going for it, is what I should say. So how you do the ending shortcut is you get a super mini turbo to the left, hop to the left, drift to the right, and then just as you're about to get into the chasm, brake drift, then release, then start a drift to the left. That way you will kind of get low air over the chasm, and you should be able to make it every single time with this method, and you will also set up well with that drift to the left going into the next turn. So Daisy Circuit, all you have really is this beginning shortcut. You can either take it with a MT in the cut, or you can take it with a UMT. I think the UMT method is faster, but sometimes your UMT will cancel in the cut if you're not careful. You kind of have to bump the wall a little bit if you want to get the UMT to work. But yeah, that's Daisy Circuit shortcuts. Let's move on to Piranha Cove, where there are a lot more. So at the very beginning of the track, you kind of have to set up well for this by getting a drift into the underwater section, then bounce off this little red ball thing, and then by that time you should have an ultra mini turbo charged, and the exit is pretty free. Now this shortcut you can also take shroomless by doing that sort of motion where you just hold the ultra mini turbo the entire time through and through. This time you don't have to bounce off anything. And then you have these two off-road shortcuts at the beginning or at the end of lap 2, beginning of lap 3. Fairly simple to pull off. Also, after the first glider, you can take this shortcut shroomless by getting a mini turbo before the cut and then drifting off the ramp once again. This is going to be a theme for a lot of this track. You just ride this wave until, well, you get to the end of this turn and you release, start another mini turbo, and bam, you're out of the shortcut. Simple as that. Now you can also take this with a shroom by tricking off the ramp and going more bottom and then drifting off this and going off this ramp. You can hold it for a lot longer than you might think into the off-road, and then you shroom and you go through it, almost all of it. Now you can also do this first cut with a shroom where you skip the ball and then shroom up right next to it. That'll be helpful if you ever pulled a shroom on lap 1. Now this shortcut near the end of lap 3, I'm not too sure if it's faster to do this mini turbo trick track, but I wanted to show it if it is. I don't actually think it is. The world record doesn't do it right now, so we'll just have to see. And then this cut before you go into the tunnel is very simple. You kind of just hold your drift until you get to the bottom of the tunnel, and then you can release inside there. And this final cut, now the turn before is pretty awkward, but if you can make do with it, you can get a mini turbo right before it, and then shroom through the last cut, get either a mini turbo or a super mini turbo, and end off the race. And now for Madrid Drive. Now, this first intended shroom cut is fairly simple to pull off. Just trick off the stairs and the escalator, and then start a drift to the left, and then just as you're about to hit the off-road, shroom and hold a ultra mini turbo through the cut. That one's pretty simple. But you can also do the shroomless. Now this is a lot more complicated than the shroom cut. What you want to do is trick off the stairs, then land in a drift to the left, then hold wide as you go off the escalator, hold tight as you're about to land, and then aim to kind of hit the wall on the left here. If you hit the wall, it's a lot better than hitting the off-road, so it's better to aim more left. But you ideally want to hit this little patch of road next to the off-road, and if you clip that perfectly, you can kind of land in between the grass and the wall, and then you want to hop left again out of the cut, and then hop left again to set up for this mini turbo and finish off the track like that. There is this shortcut as well, where off this stair ramp, you want to aim to the right, trick, but you can basically go through these dining tables. It's not that hard actually, and it saves a lot of time, so I do suggest you go for it. Now, of course, you want to be careful of traps there, so don't just blindly go in there without knowing. There's also this shortcut after the glider. If you hold an SMT, you can go off this glider and then aim to go over this little barrier, this little wall that they put up that doesn't end up working, because you can shroom just before you land, hold a super mini turbo, and get through that. That saves quite a bit of time. And for the last shortcut, it's this little grass patch. You just go through it normally. Not too much to say about this. It's near the end of lap 3. That is Madrid Drive. Now, Fronos Ice World, the only real shortcut is this at the end of the track where you can trick off the ramp at the end. And this beginning shortcut, which you can't really pull off lap 1, but going into lap 2 and 3, you can pull this off. Doesn't really save that much time, and I think you skip a box if I'm not mistaken. You can also go top path laps 2 and 3. If you get an empty trick near the valley part of that ice ramp, you can actually clear the gap and make it to the top path, which is a lot faster, by the way. And you will pull off this little mini shortcut, I guess. And that is Rosalina's Ice World. Now, Bowser's Castle 3, you have this beginning shortcut, fairly easy to pull off. And you also have this longer shortcut right after the set, which you want to take a little bit tighter than you might think. Go off this little, I don't know, like a little railing near the end of the off-road, hop out of it, and that way you can take this shortcut without hitting the wall on the left. And at the ending, you also have this off-road shortcut. Doesn't really save as much as the other two shortcuts, but it's still good to know, especially if you want to avoid racers at the end. And that is Bowser Castle 3 for the shortcuts. And of course, finally we have Rainbow Road, using Funky Kong this time. But you can do this fairly easily. What you want to do is go off these little half-pipe ramps. For the first part of the half-pipe ramp, you want to go off the very end of it. Click R on your controller as you enter the air to take this a little bit tighter. And that way you can land and again go off the end of the half-pipe. Press R again, just like you did the first time. And then hold down on your control stick as you're about to go off this ledge. So that way you can clear the gap, drift to the right, get a super mini turbo. You can get another one as you go off this cannon. And then for the last Rainbow Road shortcut, I don't know if you really consider this a shortcut, but you can go off the little half pipe ramp in this, I don't know, starry section, whatever you want to call it. But you got to make sure you go off the right side railing of it, because if you go on the left side, you will end up not getting the half pipe boost from it. So that is all the Wave 6 shortcuts. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you learned something from this video. Tomorrow will be the Wave 6 driving lines, so look forward to that. I'll see you guys in the next video.